Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly want to thank the members here for being here, that you're coming to help us out here with the witnesses. The Trump administration has made it abundantly clear that the nuclear power should be highly considered source of baseload power. And Mississippi, the state I represent, is home to Grand Gulf Nuclear Station, the largest single-unit reactor in the entire country. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is currently undertaking the process to renew an existing early site permit at Grand Gulf, which could make Grand Gulf an ideal location for a future advanced reactor. I continue to hear concerns about cost overrun risk being a factor outside the project's control. And these issues range from nuclear regulatory changes to workforce to supply chain constraints to many things. In the decades since the United States became a leader in commercial nuclear energy, we have seen a reduction in nuclear manufacturing capabilities and secure nuclear supply chains. To the panel, what are all your thoughts on how we can work to reshore the nuclear supply chain in a way that would decrease the cost overruns and construction disruptions, issues that might deter utilities and developers from building new reactors in the United States?
The overrun question is one of the issues, that's one of the stumbling blocks going forward that we need to deal with. One of the issues that I think that we have to do is we have to incentivize on budget, on time activities from the industry that's building these reactors. Currently, there is very little incentive to reduce costs, and we have other programs at the department, and let me give you an example, where we've had very costly overruns in terms of how much it costs to rehab a particular area. And the one that comes to mind is Rocky Flats in Colorado. Rocky Flats in Colorado, we were able to reduce the ultimate cost of that activity through incentivizing the contractors to make the necessary, to take the necessary actions to be on time and on budget. What we've got to do is do the same, I believe, with nuclear new build. It takes a while for the cost to be able, so we can have enough production that we can reduce costs in manufacturing, for instance. But I believe that we need to have a program that will incentivize keeping this on budget. And we are working diligently right now with the industry to see what methods can be undertaken. There are pieces of legislation that are out now currently before the Congress on the question on overruns. And I understand one of the ways to deal with it is spend more money. I'm not necessarily convinced that we need to do that. I think what we need to do is provide the incentives to make this operation, make the incentives for staying on budget, not providing additional methodology for overruns.
Thank you for that answer. Dr. Wagner?
I would just add to that you know, any first-of-a-kind technology is more expensive than the third, the fifth, the seventh, you know, to the so-called nth-of-a-kind cost that you run the curve down for any energy technology and pretty much any technology, period. And as you rightly framed in the question, we have atrophied in our supply chain and our ability to build these things, and our workforce, just about every aspect that we need, particularly for building large nuclear reactors. We saw that play out in the Vogtle experience, where the cost escalated from an initial estimate around $14 billion to over $30 billion. Each utility and each utility board doesn't want to have that situation play out in their system. And so we do have to find mechanisms like Assistant Secretary Garish talked about in terms of how do we do it on budget. But we also know that when you're doing first-of-kind, you run into first-of-kind issues that you didn't anticipate, and therefore you may have cost overruns. So I'm not an expert in how to address that aspect, but I do know from talking to utility leaders and private company leaders that utility boards, public utility commissions would like some assurance to the extent possible that the ratepayers don't end up with a significant extra cost related to the first of a kind build. And we can't get to nth of kind cost measures until we do the first one. And so that's the situation that we found ourselves in for quite a while.
We don't know what we don't know. Thank you so much, sir.
So if I may just briefly add, this is the fundamental issue for new deployment. And I would say that the path forward needs to have a bridge to that commercial viability that understands the risk of first-of-a-kind deployments. And I would say through DOE's investments, has accountability for understanding where things may be going in the wrong direction and being able to have multiple options, multiple pathways, and make decisions. Because we need to have multiple strategies in place, but not everyone is going to ultimately be successful. And so being able to execute those first projects well and then translate that execution into predictable and repeatable costs for future projects, that's the key. But reducing the capital investment for the early projects is fundamental there, and then being able to fully leverage DOE strategic investments, but provide that accountability, and really only the projects that have that viability, that commercial viability to get to that the private financing vehicle, that's where we need to get to, because we need to kind of build that bridge across that divide. So that's a key point there.
Thank you, and I know I'm out of time. I have a second question that I'll submit.